Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Queen's Hall Winifred Atwell Auditorium. We are making every effort to ensure that your theatre experience is safe and comfortable. Please take this time to listen to the following announcements. Eating and drinking are not allowed in the auditorium. Smoking is not allowed in the building. Flash photography and any unauthorized audio or video recordings are strictly prohibited. In case of an emergency, an announcement will be made. You will immediately but calmly proceed to any of our 4 exits closest to you. 2 exits are located on the left and right lower hall. These exits will lead to the east and west emergency exits. Once through these exits, you will be required to move away from the building and assemble at the muster point furthest end of the south car park. The other 2 exits are located on the left and right upper level of the hall. Individuals exiting through the upper level will be required to move along the corridor, down the front stairwell toward the lobby area, and through the front entrance to assemble at the muster point to the furthest end of the south car park. In the event of an earthquake, if you are inside the auditorium, you are advised to lean forward or hold on to the seat in front of you or next to you. Please remain in your position. After the shaking has ended, the usher will guide you to exit the building as quickly and safely as possible. If you require any assistance, please seek the attention of the Queen's Hall's ushers. They will be more than willing to assist you. At this time, please put all cell phones on silent. Thank you, and again, welcome to Winifred Atwell Auditorium.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry for the wait. We were ready, but we had some things to sort out. This evening, we're going to have a little chat. I call it a huddle. We did it last year, and I thought it necessary to do these talks when we do a fashion show for the Emancipation Support Committee called EWAAFRIKA. And every year we have a subtitle. Last year was called Conscious Threads. So we came and talked about conscious threads and what it meant, philosophically, economically, all sorts of things. And this year we have a flair for freedom as our title. So I want us to talk about freedom, but freedom as it manifests itself in the pursuit of it, actually, in many ways. So that is why there's a varied panel. I chose today to have a woman's panel. It's going to be mixed for the others, but I wanted a woman's panel, not just about women's empowerment. Part of one of the mandates of an organization that I'm attached to is to promote a woman's agenda. The Basel Convention, one of our leads is here, project leads, is one of the panelists. I'll introduce you. So that is one of the reasons why I particularly wanted an eclectic voice. Secondly, we are also representing Emancipation Support Committee. Zakia Wadada is on, and their theme this year is about dismantling colonial legacies and promoting African consciousness. So the Basel Convention is about the elimination of harmful and toxic materials and substances in our creative, carnival, and design practices. And to me, I kind of align it and think that they could be one and the same, because part of our colonial legacy, some of it is quite toxic, and we practice it nevertheless, because it's just ingrained in our system. Okay, and the third part of our presentation is also about carnival, and our understanding of carnival and its trajectory, which is also part of the Basel Convention's mandate, and we have the CEO of National Carnival Commission, Kiba Jacob Motley. So I will come through the panelists. This time I was introducing the synergy that I brought together. So we start on the left with Zakia Wadada, Uzoma Wadada, which is the Executive Director of the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. Then we have Attila Springer, who, if you know Attila, is a thought leader. One may say cultural activist, which is cultural activism because she speaks her mind and she speaks the truth. And she's always pursuing freedom in all of the writings and readings that I have seen, and finding ways for liberation. Hadassah Bournes is the project lead, and she kind of worked on this project for 4 years, and we have just instituted it last year, which is the Basel Convention, to go into the zeitgeist and find ways of changing mindset, which is critical, challenging, and I have been asked to be a stakeholder consultant to kind of get into the system of it and see how we can woo people to have discussions, talks, and to have changes. The center of the panel is Dr. Susan Burke, who has spoken at length. She is a senior lecturer at the Department of Cultural, Literary, and Communication Studies at the University of the West Indies. I know her. When we're chatting, we talk this. So this is just now for us to chat here about finding ways to really unshackle and to peel off some integuments of old thinking that really restrain us. Then we have Nicole Dyer Griffith. And Nicole Dyer Griffith, some people might have known that she was a former politician. We have a history where we founded an organization. The organization is the Oxygen with Nicole Foundation, and it's about finding liberating space for creative entrepreneurs. So that's what we have been doing, and human development. Then we have Shari Winchester, newest person to my tribe of people that I know. So I met her through just loving her costume this year, called The Tallest Man Alive, in the band Lost Tribe, and she's been part of that band, and the band won 4 times, and she has her own thinking about how she expresses herself, plus she's a designer of Shop Shari, which she leads as well, and some other things. And then we have the CEO of NCC, who is also president of the Art Society. So I think it's really, really a brilliant mix of people. So I want to go into the audience before I even go here. I think that's one of the things I like to do. I want to understand, I want to hear from you, I want to hear a voice from the audience that speaks about what is freedom to you, and do you think you are free, and what do you think that probably needs to be done for you to access this freedom? Any willing persons? You must have people willing to speak, eh? Didn't have that problem. Last night I was looking at a show with, what you call it? It's a comedy show with Kevin Hart, and they mandated the comedians to do a tete-a-tete with the audience. And a lot of them lost ground. They were so funny, but when that was forced upon them, the audience didn't speak back. So they couldn't tell that joke around because there was no response. Y'all are not going to do me that. Okay. So, yes?
To me, freedom means the privilege of choice.
The privilege of choice. Okay? That starts the ball rolling. I love the rush of people wanting to speak. You all want me to do like in the school? You speak. Come on, this is, I think this is also an indication that more of these things need to be done. Mm-hmm. We need to be conversing more. We need to get like-minded people in a space. We need to hear people's, what was the purpose of them living, and they're transferring that to you. So before I give them to transfer, I want to get a feeling from you so we can answer it. Nobody else has something to say? Yes?
Exactly. What part of your question was the end?
Whatever, a comment.
I think
Is it on?
recognizing that we have things to grieve about. And there's a lot to grieve about. And we can't access ourselves if the thing that we feel, we don't acknowledge, even by ourselves. So, yeah.
Very good point. I could start howling right now. Very solid point. Yeah?
Good evening, everyone. For me, freedom exists on two levels. Personally, for me, freedom is my ability to think through who I am, who I can be, who I want to be, and to chart a course to realize that. Because for me, that operates between my two ears, and nobody could take away what I have between my two ears. And on the other level, freedom is not accepting what others want to thrust upon you or insist that you must believe and what you must have as truth. Freedom to me is knowing your own truth, even if you're wrong. That's what freedom is for me.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to jump to the panel, and I want to go with the response to choice, the privilege of choice, and we take that. I'm going to Attila. Attila, respond to that, and you add to it if you think that is part of the discussion, if it's not part of the discussion, if choice is a privilege in the quest for freedom.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Choice is a very loaded word. And privilege also. Those are two super loaded words that we started with. Privilege to choose. Does someone choose to be born a woman? Does someone choose to be born black, white? Does someone choose body dysmorphia? Or are these things products of both our genetic makeup as well as our socialization? These are questions that come to mind immediately. When I think freedom to choose, I think about those first emancipation days. Auntie Zakia was one of the people who used to be there. You know, there was a lot of jubilation that happened, but there was also people who chose on those early emancipation days to come out on the streets and point and laugh at those of us who were marching to express celebration at the fact that there was now a thing called emancipation. And so I remember those early days. I remember not having a choice about going to emancipation. It was something that my mother insisted that we should do. She would wake us up very early and tell us again and again the story of the fact that there was a time when people who looked like us were not free in their bodies. And so every emancipation morning, I would think about what it would be like to wake up and not be able to, have a leisurely morning where I select the music that I want to listen to, and then I drink a nice cup of hot water with lemon juice in it, and then I do a little Tai Chi, and yes, choice. I choose to do those things in the morning. Or I choose to fight against a system that is oppressing me, or I choose to be vexed, or I choose to sabotage and spit in Masa's food, or I choose, so I don't feel like choice is a privilege. I think choice is a bravery. Choice is every breath that you take that helps you to decide how you're going to take your next breath. I think about freedom now and I wonder about how free women are still. I remember doing something for NCC a few years ago where they were having a security briefing. This is pre-Kiba days. It was a dark time. And I remember starting this security briefing, which I kind of forced myself into because they were not having any sort of gendered conversation about security in Carnival. And one of the things that I did in a room like this, I said, okay, I asked the men in the room, what did you do this morning to prevent yourself from getting raped or prevent yourself from being attacked? Any man? Has any answer? And then the woman, I asked the question of the woman, and all the women in the room said, I took another car, I let this person know where I was going, I did this, I did that, I did the next. So I'm trying to say that there are still many bodies that are choosing freedom, and they are being punished for that. And we can call multiple names right now in our society of women who do not have the privilege of choice. And they are bravely choosing to leave and being punished for that. So, yeah, I go back to the beginning and ask again, privilege and choice, very loaded, very complex, very nuanced, and yeah, I don't know if they actually have to do with freedom or if they have to do with bravery.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to chime in straight off? Let's make this as conversational as possible. Conversational as possible. Zakia is going to speak, yeah?
Thank you, Richard. Good night, everyone. Thanks, Attila. I think choice requires information. And you choose based on what you know. And you can only choose within the context of what you know. And therefore, what I might choose today, I may not choose tomorrow, because I may have been fed with more information. So, whether we have the privilege to choose, that can also be controlled. So, in the sense that your choice, it can also be constructed in a way. Because the way the system is set up, the way the colonial experience has been for us, what we choose is what is presented before you. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Within that construct. So how does that really, so we may figure, yes, I am choosing, but I'm choosing just based on perhaps the limited knowledge and understanding that I have, and not that full spectrum, so that I can actually be really, aligning myself with all that is possible, that which will then enable me to make a choice. I think I was wanted to add that to what...
Somebody on the center table, let's go.
Yeah, if I may, sorry. Based on what Robert spoke of a little bit earlier in looking at exploring freedom and the meaning of freedom, and I think, Robert, you said that freedom really was the ability to recognize if you are hurt, and to recognize if you needed to be healed, and to recognize something along that continuum, yes? Something along that continuum. And, to be very honest with all of you, when Richard called me and asked me to sit as a panelist on this conversation, the first thing I asked was, why? I mean, what do I have to contribute about this conversation? It's a little bit mind-boggling. And he reminded me, in much of the work that we were doing, it started from the process of human development with the Human Development Series, where the Auditorium Foundation was created to create a space for persons to create, to connect, and to cohere. And then I thought about freedom, and for me, Richard, freedom is like oxygen. You require oxygen to live. And if you were to think of it from the perspective of the conversation that you are framing, sometimes the oxygen can be very polluted, which is one of the things that you all are looking at, seeing how you can impact. And so you have that paradigm between needing oxygen, but having to find a balance to keep that oxygen as pure as you possibly can. And I think that also ties into choice, Attila, in terms of how do you make choices that impact your freedom? And when you make these choices, what is the price you have to pay for making some of these choices? Because I believe, Richard, that freedom is very expensive, as you know, because I've lamented to you on numerous occasions. Do we have the freedom, really, to create what we really want to create? Or do we have to create within certain confines so that persons who are partnering with us within these confines are not offended? Yeah? So when you say ask questions about political correctness and so on, it is asking those questions of how much of freedom am I to work within? Because if I were to really speak or to create outside of those confines, how much is it going to cost me? Or is someone willing to contribute to real freedom? Is someone willing to contribute to honesty? Is someone going to contribute and partner their brand with authenticity, as we tend to throw it out now, because that's one of the buzzwords, authenticity. You really want me to be authentic, or you want me to be this level of authentic that would not impact negatively on you? So therefore, Richard, for me, I'm thankful that you invited me. Thank you, because I always say, when you're afforded the opportunity to speak, speak. But freedom is oxygen, and it can be tarnished, and it is expensive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe I can add here
Yes.
to kind of get us rolling as well. I think what you said, Nicole, makes us come to the realization that freedom and choice is negotiable. That's what I want to say, right? And it's tied into our sense of empowerment. It's power, power over, power with, power to do, yeah? And that is something that we negotiate over time. So for instance, I may not know that I have choice because of the construct that my sister talked about. So you could be going about your business thinking, well, I don't have a choice. You hear people say that all the time. It's like, dude, you have a choice, right? So self-awareness, yes, I think is an important part of that conversation. And if we go back to our colonial history, some of us are aware of the choice more than others, right? So as Attila talked about the enslaved in the kitchen, who put poison in master, whatever, right? She knew she had choice, even though everything around her was trying to tell her, you don't have choice, okay? So choice is something that you negotiate in a kind of ongoing tension, because as Nikki said, sometimes you think, nah, I can't do that, because your rationalizations are about whether I am willing to pay the price of what I do, say how I, according to Lloyd Best, how I apprehend the world, how I show up in the world is choice. Deepak Chopra tells us in meditation, we have to say to ourselves, I am the choice maker, I am the choice maker, I am the choice maker. But that comes at a cost.
Correct.
And whether, given the constraints that we're living in, last night I'm looking at this, I look at these old kind of British, UK, strange, right? Crime mysteries. And it was set in the 1950s, and this woman working in a bar was killed, raped and killed. And of course, they realized that she, was on the pill. And in those days, a woman could only be prescribed the pill if she was married. In other words, her husband had to say, you may go on the pill. This is your reproductive right. A single woman was not allowed to be prescribed the pill, right? And if the doctor, in the case of the thing I was looking at last night, if they found out that the doctor was prescribing this pill to single people, women, she could lose her license, or he could lose her license. So again, it's always the tension, as Dr. James said, as Freddie said, between what I am doing, my sense of self, but also how I want to show up in the world, because it is that constant conversation and negotiation between me. And sometimes if I'm a woman, I'm heading a family, so I can't only think about myself, I have to think about my children and so on and so forth. And you're always in tension, right, with those kinds of realities. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Table 3.
I think freedom for me as I grew older has more to do with self-awareness, as you said. I was telling my husband yesterday, I said, I've spent so much time being a mommy and wife and a design and all of these things. I just want to be me. Who's that? I find myself asking that question because I've come to the place where I realize that we put value on ourselves based on our usefulness to others, and that is something that I'm now trying to work on for myself, because I've realized, one, how tired this has caused me to be, and besides that, it's realizing that that is what we've been taught, right? You hold value in these spaces because of how useful you are, and not necessarily because you're valuable, and it's just because you should be. So for me, I think when I think about freedom now, it has more to do with what I'm able to do without, if I want to say, it not being transactional. Just me being in my own space and being able to be myself without all of the titles and without all of my talents and without all of the things that I can actually provide for others, and ensuring that it's just about me as a person before anything else.
Okay. I want to shift a little because that was just to get us started. I have some pointed questions I want to ask. I'm going to Hadassah now because I have to bring Hadassah on to talk about how are you all at the, I shouldn't say, how are we at the Basel Convention going to address, because to me it's this simple pursuit of freedom that we are after, in creating safe space and to create better life chance for future generations, to kind of instill in people the responsibility of doing non-hazardous practice in our design and carnival space. It's some of the interventions we have done so far, people looking at us like, how we gonna make money?
Exactly.
Yeah. So chime in there.
Okay. So in the context that I'm coming from, looking at the environment, it also ties into the social aspect as well as the economic aspect. The choices that we want to make impacts the future generation. We may be able to have access to make choices now, but we're limiting the decisions that they could make in the future based off of our impact on the environment, impact socially, impact on the economic today. With the projects that we currently work on, the economic factor of it, that we don't want what we're doing to affect the financial or the profit quota that we have to make. We do look at the aspect, okay, we do not want to limit while also increasing the ability to be innovative and to bring back up practices that may be more expensive, because we do know that convenience is cheaper, but the impact of convenience is what we cannot afford. So we do have the different aspects that looks at the financial mechanisms that allows persons the freedom to actually make those choices and see how best that they can integrate different practices into there, or give them the choices that weren't available before, to make it available now and expand on it for the future.
Right. I know part of our mandate is to look at Carnival, so you know I'm coming to you, Keeper. Carnival is directly one of the areas, because when I first was introduced last year at the session like that, there was a band of people with BCRC on their shirt, and I was like, who are those people? And then we spoke, and now I'm there. And when I first went to you all, and you all pulled up all the information or the data and presented, I said, we can't talk to nobody like this about that. What you all had there is frightening, it's alarming. Because the reality is really alarming, much more than people think. It's very, very toxic. Fashion, first of all, is in the top three pollutants on the planet. And now, if we don't do upcycling and recycling, which Carnival has moved more towards, instead of doing upcycling things and adding more things and building on it and so on. So my question to you is, because I have some that I wrote down, so I want to tackle them. How can Carnival evolve, I know it's a hard one, to reflect both freedom and tradition in a modern context? Because that's the, like until I say
Want to say something?
until I look like, thank God me get it, she get it. Yeah, but this goes to what Nicole in our briefing before, she said, we are talking about political correctness. I need to know, when I asked them to speak, I said I want them to speak from their hearts. I want them to speak, and when they're speaking, and so far that has been the experience, They are speaking because it happened to them. It is my experience, in spite of it being documented somewhere else. It's my experience. And so that's why I feel this eclecticism here is working for us to have a real, authentic conversation. It's me. You could use yourself, all the referencing people talk, let's like how Shari talked about her husband. I love all those inflections. That's what this is about. That's why I just call it a huddle. So it sounds all theoretical and heavy, but you have a task. You have a task because you and I have spoken. And you are in a position as a lead of a state agency, and you have values that we share here that sometimes you are constrained within the context of your job. But you say what is necessary for you to say, and I don't see you by Mirage and a cardboard tomorrow morning.
Well, listen, we have to always, and you see, that's what Nicole was talking about with the levels of freedom and in terms of expression, because even when you talk, you have to preserve your mortgage payments, right?
Yeah.
So, but in terms of the future of Trinidad and Tobago Carnival, right? And the future of it in terms of understand, it has to be understanding what it is, because many of us don't understand what carnival is. So I'll usually ask people, are you a carnival person? And they will say, no, I only go to fetes. Or no, I only play math. Or I only go to tents, you know? Or I might go in a panyard, you know? So even in our understanding as Trinbagonians of what carnival is and what it means to all of us and where it came from. So people ask me, why am I involved with Emancipation Support Committee? You know, and I have to explain the origin of carnival, which is why the National Carnival Commission has, we've started partnering with Auntie Zaki to put a booth, an information booth in the Emancipation Village on the origin story of Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. And then, of course, partnering with Attila and with the Campbell reenactment and so on. So it's understanding that tradition, but understanding that Trinidad and Tobago Carnival is inherently innovative because we have so many creations in that product. And so the product has to continue to evolve, and we have to allow people like Shari to run into the future and create and innovate while being mindful of the environment, which I don't know how you do that as, if I created something, I can't come out to think about, when I finish creating, I could probably think about that. You don't think about that when you create it?
I mean, I think as time goes by and you're more aware of
it happens.
The actions. It
happens.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's being respectful to all of the components. But in order to respect all of the components, you have to understand the components. You have to understand that someone who chooses to make their costume, a group of people coming out of Belmont, making their costume out of found items, using things that they have at home, they are of value and they deserve a place and space on the road and on the stage just as well as the larger bands, you know. And then in terms of the sustainability element, I think that comes from the individual first. I mean, we have to do something about it because there is a lot of wastage. I could literally tell you in tons how much garbage we moved Carnival Monday and Tuesday out of the city of Port of Spain. But it starts with the individual, and I could say that both of the bands that I've played with in recent times, they encourage you to use your costume in everyday life, you know. So and wear the different parts of your costume to work, to events and so on. I've seen Nicole doing that many times. And so that is in terms of moderating, because I also think that carnival is a spirit and an energy that you can't really control too much. I know that. I don't know if everybody around me know that. So it's something that you have to allow to evolve and look at where it's going and see where it's going and kind of walk alongside it on the journey. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I feel that when you said it's a personal thing, that thing about ethical, sustainable, and responsible, those heavy adjectives, really has to come from a personal space before you go in a collective space. Because if you don't have that sense of integrity to make the choice within the context of ethics and responsibility and sustainability, it's a hard psyche shift. Because we went free. It got free, and this is free in another way. Free, kind of reckless free. I can do the political incorrectness. A kind of reckless free because it just moved at a speed. To me, there was a thing that we did called, what was it, boy? What was that thing that Robert was part of it as well? When they did a piece on the fashion design, opening line about carnival. And it was that carnival has to be the interplay between the spectator and the performer of the mass. And I must look in your eye and see you enjoying me, and you looking at me, seeing you enjoying me. And that little intangible wonderfulness, it gone. I play mass and there is nothing or nobody on the street. That is important to the mass beside the use of non-toxic, and we're going to reach there. But if that gone, I don't know, it ran, it's gone. So I'm going to, I was now going to go to Susie.
I'm itching.
No, go until she had a hand up. I'll go after tonight.
Okay, I want to go back to what Hadassah was talking about in terms of finance, right? Finance is at the core of a lot of things that we need to confront when it comes to Carnival. That's one. We cannot have a conversation about changing our attitudes until we have a conversation about reparations, right? In the same way that enslavement was around monoculture, which ultimately destroyed the viability of the lands of the Caribbean, is the same way that Carnival now is also a monoculture that is also destroying us in several ways. So we need to address this question of monocultures within our society. And I would, encourage us to consider that, the framework of Carnival remains, in a state of duality. Right, where you have the Camboulet on one side, and when I say Camboulet, I mean the traditional mass, I mean the steel pan, I mean all of those elements that come out of the people, where there is the innovation, where there is the choking of fire, where there is the taking of found materials and taking this and taking that and creating something beautiful, right? And then you have the monoculture, which has essentially created a situation where nobody else can find space in the Carnival because the monoculture of one band having 50 trucks is the reality. And if I want to get a truck, I now have to jump through several hoops because all the trucks are taken up with 5 bands. Right? So all of those things, let's think about monocultures. Let's think about what happens when a species invades an area. If we look at that, if we look at Carnival as an ecosystem, there is an invasive species. There is a monoculture that is literally leaching all of the fecundity out of the land.
What a nice word.
Yeah. I'm going to Susie and I come into Nicole because Susie has done a lot of research in the Carnival. And I want her to talk and share some of that. And I remember a line my brother, this is my brother here, if you don't know, some of you are Robert Young, he says a line loosely that it is beauty that came from nothing. And I always found I was it's somebody, it's Lloyd Best's line, but I hear him saying it often. I know that too, because he also told me that. And but he says it, and it always resonates with me. You know, like how the pan was it was a thrown away thing, and we created that, and you pick up piece of thing and you stick crumb cork and you make beauty. And it's so much more rewarding than when you just get your box shipped in and pick it up at the mass camp. You know, so yeah.
There you speak for yourself. So Attila was talking, and I was thinking about levels of responsibility as well. So there's personal responsibility and there's collective responsibility. And very often the two don't meet, or sometimes they do. But there's also the sense of this kind of, so in terms of personal responsibility, I could tell you that I have now started playing traditional mass as well, right? 2 years ago. So in terms of collective individual responsibility, right? So last year I played a baby doll made out of these things, right? Deconstructed bottles. Every part of the bottle I use, the cork, the bottle, the label, everything. And I played this traditional mass to speak back, because Carnival, as she said, is creating so much waste, so much toxins. And I chose the Carnival moment to talk about the ability for us to take notice that by doing things like this, you see this, is one of the biggest marketing ploys of my lifetime. I don't know about yours, right? Because my father used to tell me, drink government juice, right? You're thirsty?
Government juice.
That's the soul, right? Drink government juice. So this, of course, is having a really harmful effect on the environment. All of the fetes, all of the events we have around Carnival time, this is what we do. So if we are to measure the toxins just from plastic water bottle waste at festival time, we would be really, really very alarmed, right, at the level. So there is that individual responsibility. Then there's the collective responsibility in terms of what we value. So Tilla was speaking, and I'm thinking about what we are seeing in the Carnival is somehow representative of what we value. Right? So the things that we value, and when I say we, you know what I mean, right? So if we value what we would call the Mardi Gras tradition, what we pretty mass and so on, that is what grows. What you pay attention to sometimes is what grows. What is not valued. So even if you look at the policies around how traditional mass is supported, and now that I play traditional mass, so this is my second year, you could see the difference in terms of how it's supported, how it's funded, how it's marketed, how it's promoted. We make pretty pictures, right, to say, okay, this is the variety inside of the Carnival, but tangibly, what do we do to support? So going back to the collective responsibility now, there's a way that I grew up in the 1970s. A lot of the innovation that happened around steel band was incentivized. Right? So the governing body actually incentivized innovation in steel pan. So we talk about Rudolph Charles and the rocket pan and the six pan and the whatever. There was a prize for innovation in steel pan development. So there is something collectively that we could do. Once we recognize, once we apprehend the scale of the problem, there is something that we can do individually, inside and outside of Carnival, but there's also something that we could do collectively in terms of policy and programming and incentivizing certain behaviors, right? There's behavior modification. You nudge people in a particular way. And we have done it before, and we could do it again. The question I have is, do we have the will? Do we have the will to do it? Because it's complicated, it's complex, it's messy. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I'm politically correct?
Yes, you're very concerned. Yeah, very well, very well. Yeah, you know, Richard, because we're speaking around Carnival, so I want to stick to that, and I'm wondering if I should tell this story or not. I'm mildly fearful, but what the hey. Kiba mentioned about 360 utilization of a costume, and that is a concept. Can I say the name of the band or no? That K2K, an alliance, partners and alliance came up with. It's a 360-degree concept where you can utilize your costume thereafter as wearable clothing. You can use it as art, and so that way it limits the amount of waste that is associated with the single use of the costume. It's wearable art, so it lives long after Carnival. So that is why I aligned with that brand, because of the concept of utilizing the costume so much longer and the impact on the environment and so on. And so I aligned with them for a number of years because I really appreciated that concept. And as Richard mentioned, I agree, I like to play mass. Playing mass means that you're a masquerade. You're showing for persons. Therefore, if there's nobody to watch you, then what am I playing? I'm playing solo. And it hurts me to the core when you've done such a beautiful costume as a K2K costume or a tribe costume, Lost Tribe costume or something, you want people to masquerade for, and then when you look, there's no one there to see you. The stands are empty. And so, that really hurts to the core. But then there's the other aspect of it as you speak to Carnival. And sometimes, I think it was last year, I just wanted to play mass because I was alive. And I wanted to feel the sun on my face and say, thank you, Lord, for giving me another opportunity just to cross the stage. But the year before that, I played mass and I felt so terribly devastated. For some strange reason, as I was in the middle of the street, something just said, stop and look. And I stopped and I looked. And I found that every band that passed, the people holding the ropes looked like me. And the masqueraders, there was a mix of masqueraders and stuff. And I'm thinking, and I'm watching, and I'm going in a deeper hole and deeper hole and deeper hole, and every single band, the people holding the ropes, when I look, it's a mirror image, and I'm saying, what is going on? I mean, who is Carnival for now? Who can afford Carnival? Who can afford to go to the feds unless they take a loan? And then you have to choose, okay, I'll go to this one, or might go to that one, or whatever. Now, mind you, there's one particular fed that I do go to. That's it. But when you think about the cost of these things, who is Carnival really catering to these days? So this is why, as much as you would have had political things around the village, what was the name of the village? The NCC village? The village. Yeah, the Flavor Village. But it was packed. It was packed to capacity with people not having to pay to see their favorite entertainer perform. So I said, good for that. I mean, yes, whatever. Politics aside, the people didn't have to pay, and they could have listened to the little people sing and dance and jump and enjoy themselves. So good on you for doing that, regardless of whatever else comes around it. But sometimes we need to think about the people who cannot afford to do the same things that we're supposed to be proud of as a people, to demonstrate our carnivalness that we want to export to the world. We're exporting it all over, but yet still our own people right here can't afford to do it. The regular people, you can't afford to do it. And it hurts to the core when I see that. And sometimes I say, they go, hush now. Oh God, everybody, people doing their thing, just hush and leave it alone. But sometimes I can't, Richard. You gave me the opportunity to sit here and you start talking about Carnival, so look at me going on and on and saying
politically incorrect
politically incorrect things. But I think that's a thing.
To chime in there.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, Nicole. There's this conversation going on in various parts of the world that have very, very heavy tourism, right? So like Venice is having this conversation, and Barcelona is having the conversation. Portugal, Lisbon, certain parts of Greece. They're saying that essentially the people who live here can't afford to live here anymore. I mean, to say nothing of like a New York, So they are now having to reconsider their tourism model. And I feel like we should take preemptive strike and begin to look at what Carnival, what has happened to Carnival. And that is one of the things that has happened to Carnival. That you have people who are coming here from abroad, and they don't have any context for what carnival means. They literally see, oh, you could come to this place, it doesn't cost too much. Well, for them. Right? And you can have a good time for 4 days. You can party out your soulcase and then go home and have no worries. So they have now appropriated what was working for us. And we have been priced out of our literal freedom, right? It is time for us to have a conversation about who Carnival is for.
You think we're ready for that, girl?
I think that it's an urgent conversation, because I too feel like, after Juve, I could bust out, I could go to Tobago, I could go somewhere else. Juve really is the most important part of Carnival, because again, it is connected to that moment of freedom. And as far as I'm concerned, well, what is the rest of it for? I find that we could Juve for the whole 2 days, right? As far as I'm concerned. But, really, the question is, who is it for? Is it for us? Do we want to be watched? Do we want to perform? You talked about a masquerade is a performance. A job is a performance of fear. So in order for somebody to be frightened, the job have to intimidate you. But the job have to have somebody to be frightened. A midnight robber need to convince somebody that he's the baddest man in the world, so that he could get money to buy to make his costume the best possible midnight robber costume. So our feedback loop is gone now. It doesn't, and we need to arrest that, because I know that there are a lot of young people, they love Pan, they're not so interested in Carnival, because they can't see where they fit into what is being projected. And unless you come from a Carnival family, or you come from a family where people are playing mass and they're encouraging you to play mass, and you have a crew of people who are playing mass and you can afford to do that, you have really no place in the Carnival.
If I may? Yes, go ahead. To build off of that, I can speak from my perspective of coming from a family that does not play mass. However, being in this project, I said it cannot start without me never having played mass. Because in order to explain to people why we need to make the change, I can't sit here in my jacket and be like, yes, we must, without understanding the context. So being a person that actually now had to say, okay, let me play mass. Now, I like the creative aspect always. I've always had that creative aspect, yes. But seeing it from these lenses, it allows me to say, okay, we need to create this space. It's going to be hard to do that, but one step forward, open the doors for other persons. There are things that are going on currently. We need to scale it up. Let's put a platform out there now to scale up these practices to allow the exclusivity to be inclusive to all. Because there are practices, there is this, in my aspect, the sustainability. There are people who want to get into the industry, who want to participate in mass, but they don't know how and they don't want to go the commercial aspect. So part of the project that we are working on, we are looking at the secondary markets, the sustainable markets, and making it easier for persons to access that resource to say, okay, it is possible, and we can scale it up from there. As well as the behavioral change of targeting youth. I don't want to say the older generation, but persons who have been in the industry in a long time, it may be hard to change their perspective. They may be stuck in their ways. However, the youth that are coming up, they do want a different avenue. They are interested. So we are creating the space for them to access the knowledge, give them the options, and really fill that gap so that even if the project is not successful or whatever we're doing is not successful in this generation, it will impact the future generation that is coming up, they are wanting to make that change, so we are creating this space to allow them to do that as well.
I wanted
You wanted to say something?
Yes,
please.
please. If I may, please. Thank you. So, in terms of the discussion about, because there's so many things I want to respond to, right? But in terms of the discussion about the people holding the rope who look like us, right? Now, that is a fact. But that is a problem that exists outside of that moment. It exists in many areas of our lives, right? But that is why we have Emancipation Support Committee and the work that they continue to do to empower persons to understand that there is freedom in what they could do. There are no limits in what they can achieve, right? And then we are examples that people can look to say, okay, you were a senator at a point, you know, so we are examples, living, breathing examples. And then we as individuals, as black people, I could say that I was
You said,
the mortgage. So, but we as black people also have to make conscious decisions about the conscious decisions about the things that we do on a daily basis. So, for instance, I could say these earrings were made by a black woman, right? Doughty. I'm a big up Doughty. I love these earrings. I tell Doughty, I still have money for her. Yeah, I tried to thief Khadija earrings yesterday. That's why she was. This dress that I'm wearing was made by a black woman, you know. So there are black people who are doing well, and I'm not saying to not focus on the boys who hold in the rope, because we have to, but not all of us are holding ropes, and the conversation around the people who are holding ropes sometimes drowns out the conversation about the rest of us who are doing exceptionally well. You are doing exceptionally well. Shari's doing exceptionally well. Attila. So there are many of us. And so that's why we're having the conversation. Now, I know in the moment it's overwhelming, but we have to be the ones to make that change, right? By making conscious decisions, by choosing us, by choosing ourselves, you know, to partner with, to develop, to grow each other. You know, in terms of Carnival though, and Carnival being the perception that Carnival isn't for everyone, again I go back to freedom, because I've been playing mass since I was 3 years old, and in my adult life, 3 years I did not make adjustments because I don't have the time, because I had to work, right? So I can't make and design my own costume. I may not be creatively inclined in that way. I might be creatively inclined in another way. But I will get my costume, and I'm not wearing, nobody else in the band well, you would know that, nobody else in the band had the same costume as me. Because I spend nights upon nights in the panyard, cry over a costume already. When Mr. Pascal, God rest his soul, make up something for when it fall apart. Not that it was my construction error, you know, and so, but at the same time, the 3 years that I didn't, was the 2 years I had this job, I didn't really think this thing through, because this job really does mess up my little carnival. And then another time where I was in another place, in a red building somewhere, and I couldn't adjust my costume. But so there are people like me who are working, who are mothers, and they want to pick up a costume in a box because they cannot make their, and so that is their freedom, and that is their choice, you know. And so they work and they put aside the money, and some people take a loan, or some people do it the other way, which is how I used to do it. Every month I have a carnival fund. I put that before I pay the bank, that money come out, before I pay the mortgage, my carnival money coming out first, right? So that there, and so we all have to be able to experience the carnival in our way. And how we choose to experience the carnival is an individual choice, right? Now, of course, we as the National Carnival Commission have, so I'll put it back on that hat now, have a role to play in making sure that carnival can be accessed and experienced by all, which is why we had 2 villages. So everybody talk about flavor, and everybody love off the flavor, But John Cupid Carnival Village was a really great experience. And it's a product that has existed for a very long time, and it will continue to exist for a long time, because it's not a novelty item, it's not trendy like flavor, it's tried and tested, and it is a true cultural product. So, and we have so many things. You have panyard crawls. Welcome to the Guile was a new product that we introduced this year for stick fighting, where we had these mini stick fighting competitions that we took around the country, and it was free. So you could experience stick fighting with live performances, traditional carnival characters, and what we did was that we did not use the traditional carnival characters as props, because what tends to happen is you bring a midnight robber and he walking around. He ain't saying nothing whole night. So then he's not a midnight robber, he's a man in a cloak with a big hat. I don't know, we could call him something else, we could find a name for him, but he cannot be a midnight robber if he's not speaking, you know. So we introduced the characters and put them on stage and use the characters for the purpose for which they were designed, as orators, you know, and storytellers and so on, to help people tell the carnival story. So we have a lot of work to do, don't get me wrong. And I ain't getting defensive, because I know it's plenty work to do. I know. I stopped at Attila and Auntie Zakia and thing, and Richard. This is probably why he bring me here, because he probably know I need to vent a little bit. But there is a lot of work to do. But we've also done a lot of work, and there are a lot of people around us doing the work. So I see Robert. I don't know if you produce it or you produce it as a collective with others, but I see. Right. So I see that. And I would.
We still have met somebody last night who started, like you said, everything twice. Somebody gave us 2017. And it took 5 years to come back before the very come from the trauma having to do that.
Exactly. Because it takes a lot, and you put in your everything into making this thing, and then you might put it together and then it fall apart because the glue and the fiber stick. Thing that is sticking in your finger, in fiberglass, and it didn't hold up properly, and you know, so it takes a lot. But I have hope. I certainly have hope for the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival product, that we can all experience it in our individual ways. You know, so if your way is the tribe way, we probably not supposed to say bad names. I don't know, but if your way is the tribe way, that's fine. But that does not diminish what Robert is doing with his collective of people, where they have to make their costume. You could play Mass in All Stars as a sailor on Carnival Monday, you know, and buy a sailor costume for $200 and play in that same costume for the next 10 years. Nobody's going to know. Because you're covered in powder, and they could dry clean it after, you know.
Yes.
So,
Yes. I was coming. Yeah. That you want to comment too. And on.
It's sort of bridge a gap, because we're talking about people, we're talking about freedom and people being free to make your choice to play the carnival how you want, and for me it's beyond carnival. I'm not thinking of the carnival. It touched a chord for me with the reference to the people pulling the rope looking like me. And my question is, what is wrong with that? If pulling the rope is what they want to do, that's how they want to experience carnival, is it something being foisted upon them? Or is it choice? Because rather than jump in the band, if I pull the rope, I will make some money and I can help my family, or whatever it is. I don't have an opinion on it. I really don't. But who are we to determine? And I'm saying all of that because some years ago I went to a very small village, EWAAFRIKA, in Finland. And this girl, she was a receptionist, and she said, well, she studied to be a receptionist, And she was happy, and I asked her, I said, what made you want to become a receptionist? And because she spoke of that so proudly. It was her dream job to be a receptionist. So I asked her, well, why? And she said she grew up with her grandmother, her parents, but the grandmother grew up in the house with them. And she had gotten used to taking care of the grandmother, trying to understand the needs of the grandmother to make sure she's happy. And she equated working as a receptionist with that. And she was happy, she was content, and she could find a way to make a living. And it really struck me, why do we feel we have to put these shackles on persons to determine who you want to be? And in the moment when she said that to me, then I thought of Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who did some of his best work when he was in prison. And he said the reason he was able to do that is because prison didn't take away his ability to dream. It didn't take away his imagination. So the stories were in his head, he was creating. And therefore, once he came out of prison and he had the platform to write, he was able to write. So there's something I'm saying that even when we tell people what they should be happy with and what they should be doing, that is limiting their freedom. And is that what we want to do? I have more questions than answers, right? I'm just opening up the thing. But I'm saying we have to be careful when we stand on aside and determine that something is not good enough for you, because through our own lens it's not good enough, but through somebody else's lens it might be good enough.
May I respond? Because it was something that
I mean, it's no need to, it's nothing to, I just want to make it clear.
Hold on. Okay.
I'm not being confrontational.
No.
I'm just saying we need to extend our minds to a deeper place.
Yeah, but I want to lead into the person who's going to talk anyway, because I want to go back to some notes that I made while you were talking, and until I said it's courage. Choice is courage. Choice is as a result of knowledge, and a lot of our choices are within the confines of a construct. And all of that speaks to what you are speaking of. So that's why I'm using those references I took note of, right? And I have a pointed question to you, to you, Zakia, about where we're going with it. The discussion is not just the observation of realities. It has to be, because of the observation, we are making, we are visioning, we are forward thinking, we are doing some kind of prescription. And I feel that I can say, like what Kiba said, is everybody choice if they want to play with a certain band, and fine. So then now it's really independent choice, as I said before, they get a collective. The ethics, the responsibility, and so on is the personal choice before you get in collective space. Because I don't feel that it's right for a monopoly to happen in the carnival space. That's what carnival is about. So you're starting from that personal choice. That's my personal feeling. I think that is a real valid feeling. So I don't think that, you know, and that might make me confrontational. I think a lot of the bands not really owning up to all of the ethics and so, but it's a bigger story when a monopoly is existing in the carnival space. That is insane. And I want to go to you, but I want to give you an angle to, because I want you to talk to that, because that has to be part of what you are to speak of, but you can comment, and
Yes,
I'll come back to you, Nicole, but I want to go there,
Yes.
because I had that lined up. Because Zakia is here because Afro-consciousness is part of the dismantling of our colonial legacy, and I have it. You have to be that identity that Attila spoke to, that awareness and that knowledge of what you are, and almost like what your purpose is. So I was wanting to say to her, how are we going to be us to move forward for more sustainable futures because of the identifying of this Afro-consciousness. But speak full state and then you come back. Then I'll come back to you, Nicole, because I want to circle, I had to circle the room, and then I have to go to Shari because she's sitting there and she hasn't commented. So
You could go after.
So I like till a kind of not boiling, because I'm much better in control of myself than that, but very concerned about how we see certain things. I understood the concern of Nicole. I appreciated Kiba's response and then the sister. But when we take a bigger picture, you understand? Why is that the choice that only one group in the society has to make? If it was a valid choice, then we would not see one group. So there's something else that is working in that space that we are not paying attention to. Because if it was a choice to hold a rope for a band, because that's how you make money, why is only one group in the society taking that choice? That's the question we have to answer. The other thing that I want us to remember, why do we have ropes in the first place?
that's what I was to say.
That is the question. Because I grew up with a family, my mother played mass, my father played mass, my mother played mass until she became a born-again Christian, and it became something that she should not do. But she grew up as a mass person on Carnival, and if we look back at pictures, nobody invaded bands. There was a natural respect. When a mass is playing, if you want to jump, you jump at the back of the band. Don't we know that? Nobody used to infiltrate and go inside and between bands. And if you look back at pictures, bands crossing, stage band in the street, it's only the masqueraders you saw. Because if I want to take a chip, I'll go in the back of the band. That was the natural respect and understanding which we had about the carnival. And we have to figure out what changed that. We used to have 10, 12, 15 bands, steel bands on the street. Where are they? Why are they not there anymore? These are the questions that we have to ask. Why, when I come out on the street to carnival, I am watching 20 trucks with a few people in between? That's what it looks like to me. Because the people are so small to the trucks that the carnival band has become a band of trucks with these little beings stuck in the trees. Who comes to watch that? It is annoying, it is irritating, and it is extremely upsetting. And that is what our carnival is emerging into. It cannot be. And therefore, what is causing that? What is the mentality? What is the space of mind that is allowing us to take that trajectory? Is it about economics? Because it is no longer about what the masquerade was all about. It is what we have made the carnival, because and just this morning I went to the launch of a book where he said mass is jumpy. He's talking about the spirituality of mass. And he said in early days it was called masquerade, which is what it was. And then when it was moved from the emancipation period into the carnival, meaning freedom of the flesh. And so before in those 2 days, yes, we do all the things that we want so that on Ash Wednesday we could go beg for mercy and get ashes. So that it emerged from its essential value of people using this opportunity for resistance, to talk about the things that they were not happy about, to be that freedom to just, in that space, allow me to be that revolutionary, to be that person who want to give a message, the person to talk about the things, to bring down the army, Yeah, those days, those brothers who coming down with despots, they're building trucks and guns and so because they are replicating what they understood this was going on in the society. So I'm saying, if the carnival stops being that, a freedom of people to express themselves, just as we did in the college, so they did it in the mass about what was happening in their society around them and both here and so on, and it just becomes the freedom of the flesh. So that we can do anything we want carnival, and then go get some ashes on Wednesday and become good again. That's what it has been transformed into. And we have to ask ourselves, is that what we want? You know, when I wanted to just make one point about the sustainability and decolonization and this whole thing about reparations as well. Because if we don't repair how we are thinking and seeing things, then we're going to keep going down that hole. In ancient societies, you didn't have to have issues about environmental sustainability. Because people who lived in ancient societies, they lived in harmony with nature. They understood that if I did not take care of nature, nature will not take care of me. So therefore, if I cut a tree, I don't have to plant back one. It was just natural. Human beings naturally integrating with their environment and understanding the interdependence. We have lost that. We live in buildings and we don't think that we have anything to do with nature. Yeah, we are in these constructed spaces. You know, we hardly go outside, we put air condition and we stay inside. And therefore we have lost that connection with nature. We have lost that connection with self. And then we begin to lose that connection with our purpose and our reason for being. Celebration of self and opportunities to express is part of our natural being. We can't take that away from people. Panorama is no panorama if you don't have the people coming up with you. Mm-hmm. You can't have a band with no
supporters. They can't actually reach.
And then when the supporters reach, they need to be at the side of the stage because that is what is giving bad energy. We decide we have to have control and we have to put everything in order so that you have to stay far from the stage and try to move on the band. If you disconnect the band from its people, you disconnect the band from the energy of its people because it's all about energy. Right? And that is why we have to start to rethink what we are doing. So Panorama now is an opportunity to make money, more than to continue that communal connectivity that is going to help us stop killing each other. Because my band being my band, and if it is I'm defending my band, is I'm defending them for some proper purpose. And I'm not turning on the members of my band. So I'm just saying that part of our repairing of ourselves and that reparations and that uncolonizing of ourselves, some people don't like the word decolonizing, so I'm trying to use uncolonizing of ourselves, is to go back and find our true reason and purpose for being, and how do we express that? That's what I want to say. Thank you.
What my aunt said, I mean, there's nothing more to add to it. She was so pellucid. I'd like to invite Juliet. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. I do want to touch on the issue of those that look like us pulling the ropes. And in my contribution, I want to say that the theme, a flare for freedom, and the subtitle in Masterclass series, bear with me, okay, featuring, okay, a live panel, and it went on to say, freedom from colonial legacies, freedom from harmful creative practices. Now, when Nicole made the point, and when the moderator here started the program, and as well as other members of the panel, at all times I kept the theme in my head. So when Nicole made the point about those who look like us holding the ropes, I didn't get the sense that she was
saying that people didn't have a choice to choose the whole rope if they wanted to or not. I didn't get that sense. I got the sense that she was identifying that the carnival has been kidnapped from us, and we have now been reduced. My sister Zakia made the point. We have now been reduced to holding the ropes because, one, we can no longer afford to pay for the costume, so they have eliminated us from that aspect of enjoying or becoming a masquerader. They took that away from us. They took away our economic independence, and because of that, we now have to find ways in which we make a choice between playing mass or going to hold the rope to make an extra dollar. So, to my mind, Zakia made the point. How did we get here? The carnival has been kidnapped. It is now being monopolized by a few. And when you look at our carnival, and that is the picture of what carnival has become, what you see is colonialism having fun up at the high end, and the slaves holding the ropes on the other end. Come on, let me be real. Let us be real. They have kidnapped the carnival, and it has now been reduced almost to back to slavery. And when you consider where carnival came from and how the slaves rebelled and the rebellion against the slave masters and the Camboulet and what have you, you can understand what Nicole is commenting about. I don't think she's saying that she's saying that we shouldn't do it. Hell, if I have a choice now, the NCC lady here, sorry for calling me Piba, you said? You said you make a choice because your time schedule doesn't permit for you to play the mass.
No, I make time to play the mass. I can't make the mass.
Right, okay. This gentleman and myself, we have given up several of our carnivals to doing what? We're not doing the street on carnival. So when we heard one of the panelists spoke about the bottled waters and the pollution of the carnival and what have you, in our little mind we're laughing because it's like bags of hundreds of bags upon bags of garbage that we fill during the carnival season with bottles and plastics and what have you. You know, so my dear friend, it is not that you said something wrong, you didn't say anything wrong, right? But I think you had lost the message that Nicole was really trying to deliver, and in terms of sticking with the theme of what this whole discussion is about. Thank you very much.
They have hands.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
have hands. But I also want to say something, but they are hands.
She was supposed to say something.
Hello? Or I should say good evening.
Good evening.
Because that would be the center of my conversation. Reality is this, because I have done food all over the place, I've done all kinds of things. So I'm connected in IMAS and other festivals similar. So I just did Point 14 and had my truck on the road. And this is what not being addressed is, where has the audience gone? We're not having we're having a conversation about being kidnapped, because reality is nobody goes downtown for Juve either anymore. Nobody goes behind the bridge. And reality is it's not a particular type of people, a particular hue of people. It's people who believe it is safer to not be in certain areas. The same people who go home with their windows up and their air conditioners on and not see what is going on next to them. Or as I tell people all the time, the people who don't say good evening, good afternoon, or good morning anymore, because they are living in their own bubble, right? So that's why you need a rope, because you need the people who you don't want to see not next to you, and make sure they are not next to you, right? And that is why you have people, you have the reason to have a rope in the first place, because we have segregated the carnival, but not just by colorism, not just by like I talking in the code, not just by a situation. It is the way that we have started to live. What I remember as a child is the whole family. My aunt, my whole aunt, my great aunt, cooking up a pot of pilau to go in the grandstand, to watch, to wait to see my mother cross the stage with Minchell or whoever. That doesn't happen anymore. The Flavor Village, for example, was an example of what is going on. People want to be part of it. People want to see their performance. But it wasn't that was even more interesting is when the performers performed, it was like euphoria to them. Because their people came to see them. What created that space between the audience and the performer? Because don't be misled, we are all performers because we go on to a stage Monday and Tuesday. Trinidadians are naturally performers, right? So that when we look at this, the fact that nobody wants to go downtown for Juve, the fact that everybody wants to play in a band that has free drinks, free food, and in some cases air-conditioned buses. Yeah.
Free cozy.
Yeah, cozy, so you could eat as much.
But you understand what I'm saying? If we're going to have a real discussion, why is it? Because the people in downtown come uptown. Why are they not staying downtown to do their own mass as we? They're coming uptown, same way. And then the people uptown now, having separated from downtown, now put men with ropes. There were men with ropes in Juvenile.
Yeah.
There were men with ropes in Juvenile. And that is where we reach. And in Point Fortin, there were men in ropes. For the first time ever in Point Fortin. This time, they had men with ropes. So it becomes a culture. Nobody's addressing the culture. Or as they say, nobody's addressing elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is nobody wants to be part of mass. Or is it that mass don't want to be a part of them? And I listen, it's just some certain things I would like to introduce. Because, all right, and one other thing I'll say before I give up the mic. When I Show Speed was here, right?
Oh dear.
It was very interesting that what we pulled together to show I Show Speed, what Trinidad was about. It was very interesting because we showed him and it was good. I'm not saying it was the best because it was the first leg of the tour, so a lot of people got caught with their pants down in the contribution. But reality is what we showed him, even if you say it was 30%, it was 30% of what we are. We don't do that for Carnival. We don't. And that is what we need to face facts. Anyway, that is my contribution because of the round.
All right.
There's somebody in the back. Philip, you wanted to say something.
Hi, good evening. So I just wanted to add to what he said just now. I have been in education for a number of years, and the lack of audience, we do have a lack of knowledge children do not know their culture. Every year I teach Standard 4 groups, so every year I deal with 10-year-olds who've never heard of traditional characters. Every year I do workshops teaching them their culture. This is where we came from. These are the names that we use. French origin, why are they French origin? They have no idea about who they are, what their history is. Their parents are not interested. They may be interested in the pretty mass aspect of it, but the children don't know. And we have larger groups of teenagers in it that also don't know. So we will be losing our audience. The audience starts to age out. Those who are now earning an income, and they're the ones who will come out to relax and be on the sidewalk looking at the show, they're not interested because they don't know. They have no idea the beauty of our culture. Nobody has taught them that this is who we are. So we really have a gap when it comes to passing on that knowledge and sharing the passion and the love of self. We really, really are lacking in that area. So if we don't pass that on, we can't expect the others to show up. We also have to teach them, this is who we are, come, let's go see it. I know NCC does these free shows all around the country, and I'm sure that outside of the East-West corridor, outside of Port of Spain, definitely, the pockets are very small. You're gonna hardly have audiences coming out. So my school is in the central area. They don't know anything about Juve. They don't know anything about Carnival, anything about going and sitting on the stands with food and all of that. There's no knowledge being shared outside of a particular demographic. You have the buzz in Port of Spain. I've worked in Port of Spain as well for Carnival time. You see all the primary schools prepping, all of them dressing up, and they're learning to walk on stilts, and they're so proud of it. They're passing it on, and outside of that, they have no idea what's going on or what we do here in Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad, when it comes to Carnival. So we really need to find a way to bridge that gap and educate those coming up that even if you are not taking part in it, you should have some sort of knowledge, because we do need an audience. We do need people to go and look on at the masquerade. We do need people to be there cheering on their pants side, and we're really, really losing that as time goes by.
As part of that, we have to give them the correct history.
Excuse me, can you say what
yes?
school? What school are you in?
You have to give them the correct history.
Okay, one last comment from two, and then I have to come back here. I want to hear a comment from Shari, who hasn't spoken, and then I want a closing remark thereafter, because the time everybody's going to get a closing remark, they can take whatever angle they have. 2 hours is limited. This is just an attempt to do what we are doing here. I just think it was so important. I mean, I talked to Zakia say, well, go and do it, because it's so difficult to pull the forces together to do it. But we got it done, and you see how definitely needed this is. That we can't even the time has escaped us, and we haven't even,
I wanted to thank you, the young brothers, for this and the Emancipation Support Committee, because if we look at the forum, first of all, the fact that the sisters are the ones providing the leadership in terms of freedom, how we define freedom at this point in our history, in our story. So we're speaking about Carnival, and our historical references to Canboulay versus the masquerade and the imitation of the slave master and the colonialist. We are in that time now. Whereas today is African Unity and Liberation Day. I can't say happy African Unity and Liberation Day because we're not united. Our country is lacking the leadership of people like Dr. Eric Williams and the CLR James, George Padmore, Beryl McBurney, Audrey Jeffers, the leaders who the Carnival expressed when we came out as a form of protest. We are at a very low ebb right now as a people in the Caribbean and in the country. The brother spoke about the elephant in the room. I want to talk about the red, white, and blue whale in our waters and how we have just opened our doors for that whale to come in and dominate. And this is the last stand for the culture of our people. So please, let's take it from here and move it forward so we can bring especially our youth into the struggle for freedom, justice, and sovereignty. Thank you.
Hi, hello, good day. I just wanted to add to the conversation a little bit. As a former audience of Carnival, I can tell you exactly why I stopped coming to view Carnival. Carnival used to be a religious thing for my family. I would go with my mother and my brother every year to see Carnival. I stopped. The creativity is gone. Carnival has been reduced to a cookie cutter framework, in that it's the same thing over and over and over and over again, for the exception of a few bands. Lost Tribe is one of them, K2K is one of them. It cannot be beads and feathers every year regurgitating the same costume. And you want people to come out, people need to see something different. I think Carnival needs a theme like the one you put up there. So if I say the next year Carnival is under the sea, I don't want to see no beads and feathers. I want to see something different. I want to see what under the sea looks like. I cannot be saying Carnival is under the sea and I see beads and feathers. That's not under the sea. So I stopped coming. It's the same thing over and over. It needs to change. That's my contribution.
I'm going back to panel. I need to hear Shari. This is her time to think, and then I'm coming. And then, if there's a chance, I might get another speaker in the audience. But I have to come back here. So Shari, yes.
Hi. Ask me. Tell me.
Huh?
Oh, you just want me to
Yes, at this stage, you just have to comment. They have a lot of thinking good. If I start to talk, Olego, get chance. So talk.
I definitely wanted to speak to the generations that are coming not knowing anything at all. They don't know anything at all. I have a 15-year-old and I keep questioning her to find out what they learn in school. They don't know anything at all. And that's not an exaggeration. I don't know if these social studies books will, I have no idea what is happening, but they don't have common knowledge of things that should be known. And this is beyond Carnival. I think in the Carnival space, what has also happened is, in a sense, a demonizing of Carnival. And that is a serious issue. A lot of my friends don't play mass or have a different concept of what Carnival is because of what they've been taught, and it's not necessarily what it is. And I think that may be part of the problem in terms of what children are learning or not learning. It's just kind of like, this thing is bad, so we're not going to teach you all anything about it because it's not what you should be involved in anyway. So I think from that perspective, a lot of the history of Carnival, the reason for Carnival, everything about Carnival is being erased, and in a large way, because we're not stopping to actually teach them about the essence of what this thing really is. All people know, and there is not any fault of anybody, what people know is wire bra and bottom in the road and feathers and beads, and that's it. But for me, my experience is different because I'm coming from a different place of designing in a way that is, I'm still in the commercial space of Carnival, but deciding to do something different, which has more to do with the creativity and with the history behind Carnival, with the research in terms of whatever the theme is. And for me personally, I think it stemmed from me recognizing the same thing that the gentleman was saying about everything looking the same. When I look at other bands, what I usually see is every year we have a red costume, we have a blue costume, a yellow, a purple, and that's how people choose their costumes. So for me, one of the things that I try to focus on in terms of design is ensuring that whatever I design actually serves a purpose, one, is sustainable in some way, two, because I think that it's important for us to recognize that you've spent your money on this thing and you should be able to utilize it and reuse it as many times as you want, because that should be part of the experience. Even if the piece that you're using helps you to remember something about when you played in this costume, whatever the memories that you hold on to, I think it's important to have the ability or the option to do so. I think another conversation that is in Carnival that we don't necessarily focus on would be the inclusivity in terms of bodies, because we see costumes that are made for a very specific body type, and I think for me the focus is always ensuring that everyone is comfortable, no matter what size, no matter what shape. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you are. You should be able to feel beautiful and comfortable in whatever you're wearing. And I think
Okay, so I'm going to start at the top, and I'm giving everybody 30 to 45 seconds to say a line. I want the line to be not necessarily to address particularly any of the points, but it comes, when I started off, I wanted to come from your own biography. I wanted to be you speaking a truth, irrespective of what might have been said here, but so that we can help enlighten people and kind of look into the future. So we're starting with Zakia.
So I want to go back to my first point about choice and freedom being made within the context and space from where you are. You know, when I was a child and I went to school, they would tease me and say I have an ounce of plait and a pound of ribbon. And that made me feel really awful, you know, because of course they're talking not only about the texture and length of your hair, the fact that you were my complexion, you were made to feel you're not beautiful. The child with the curlier hair, the lighter complexion, you know. So I had to make a choice about finding value for myself. And one of the things that I knew about myself is that I was intelligent. That's even my name I chose for myself, it means intelligent. That is how much my intelligence meant to me. Zakia means intelligent. So, yes, I have a say. So I'm just showing how as children, or even as a young person, you have to make a choice. And I also took from my mother and told myself that I would always be polite and respectful, hoping that with my intelligence, my politeness, and being respectful, I would make it through life even though everything else did not seem to be acceptable. My complexion, my hair, you know. So those are the choices I've made within that context within which I found myself. You see? Another person, maybe from another group, may not have that kind of choice to make. But I was able, that is how I was able to survive this sense of being less because of how you look and the texture of your hair. That's my personal experience. And I'm saying that as human beings, we have to find purpose and we have to understand what the experience of African people have been in this society. So therefore it is painful to see us holding the ropes and not jumping up in the band. You understand? It's a different space we are coming from. Not because we think somebody should not choose that as an opportunity, but we are saying, what are their choices for opportunity? Their choices for opportunity are that. Yes? For Carnival, to make a little money to do myself, that's my choice. My choice is not if I could sell food or maybe bring run a steel pack, you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying, the choices that you have is what determine, and certain groups in the society are given different choices. And that's what we have to understand. We may not think that, okay, all of it is open to you. People say, yes, you can do, no. If I come from Laventille, it's hard for me to get a job. I have to excel. You know, I passed for St. Joseph's Convent and I was living in Gonzales. You understand? I was the only child in my class who looked like me who passed for convent. When I was in St. Joseph's Convent and they took a pity out, I looked to see the black dot in the back. You understand? Because that is a space in which you found yourself, because it is not the usual space in which we found ourselves. You see? And those are realities. You see? And therefore, we have to understand why it is so critical for us to repair the trauma and the remaining vestiges of colonialism that determine the choices that our people have to make. There's a reason why the majority of persons in our prisons look like us. There's a reason why the majority of persons who are on the street look like us. There's a reason why the majority of people who are killing each other look like us. It's not just because they're bad and evil. It's the construct in which they find themselves and the choices that they have had to make and what people have presented to them as being survival. This is very serious, and we have to understand that so that we can change it. And then we don't spend more and more money on violence in order to control the violence. We try to find what are the needs of this group in our society. Why are they suffering so much? What is causing their pain? We need to find it so that we can change it. It will change the carnival. It will change how we educate our children. Why our children don't know anything about ourselves. We stop teaching history in school. Because we have the society have decided in this new construct that we find that history is not important. So you're bringing up people who have no foundation, a tree without roots, and survive. I know these things are very passionate to me, so I would stop here, but I want you to understand the point. There is a need for a revolution. Are we ready to stand up and fight the right revolution? Are we ready? Because we have to, as I was look at we complain, but where the society is going. But it has to change. And some really fundamental change. We have to uncolonize and repair.
Thank you. Attila, thank you so much.
My question is, has anybody ever been to France for Carnival?
Can I see the reason of the hands?
Huh?
Yes.
You've been to France. Two people have been to France. Does anybody else know what Carnival in France looks like? Is this something that you follow? Is this something that you're interested in? So then why are we constantly telling this lie that French Carnival is French? And whenever the conversation about Africa comes up, we are made to feel like if we are crazy when we say that all the things that we celebrate in Carnival come out of our African masquerade traditions. And this is a fight that has been going on for years. You know, anybody who says that steel pan comes out of Ogun is looked at like if they just landed from another planet. Because, in fact, they would prefer that the thing landed from another planet than that A-word place. And so it is not a kidnapping of Carnival, it is a denial of Africa. It is a hatred of blackness. All of those things come out of that. We just hate ourselves. We hate our black selves. And that is why it is okay now for people who used to look down at black women, who used to raise up their clothes to shake their bottom in the face of the society for the disrespect and the oppression that they were dealing with. Now it is okay for you to walk with your whole Banksy outside. But I can't do that. Women like with me were put in jail for doing that. The contempt for blackness is at the core of this question. And if we do not deal with that, we really playing games. And we playing in the faces of our ancestors who put their bodies on the line for us to have a carnival. I'm not giving up Carnival. Carnival is mine. You cannot tell me that I can't go on the road, because then you will see war. Ogun is my father. Ogun is on my head. If you want to see war, you will try and take away Carnival from me. Nobody is to take away my Carnival from me. I done.
Thank you. Thank you. Hadassah?
Okay, well, in having the privilege of going after these two ladies, I could say I agree with everything. But Carnival was coined, Trinidad Carnival was coined as the greatest show on earth. And I think today we have strayed away from what it meant then and the meaning that was attached to Carnival even before that. And the issues that we as the BCRC Caribbean is tackling, it's an even different aspect to Carnival. But I think it could be dealt with if we deal with it in silos. Each issue interacts with each other directly or indirectly. So I say once we are willing to tackle these issues and once we're willing to have all the voices in the room heard, all the opinions taken into consideration, I believe the future of Carnival will be bright again. It will be something that we will all be proud of and that can resonate.
Thank you, Hadassah.
Thanks. Okay, so you asked us to give some sort of biographical note. And I want to pay homage to my father, deceased, who always taught us that we belong to something and somebody. So that even though you were an individual and you had individual choice, that choice was implicated because you belong to a community. So the concept I want to put on the table is ecology. And ecology is a naturally occurring thing. So it speaks to relationality. What I do affects what Tiller feels. What Tiller does affects how you feel, right? And I think that there's a kind of neoliberal worldview that makes you think individual choices is the best thing, it's the only thing, right? It's not. Because in a natural occurring ecology, there are relationships that you need to tamper down. Think of your own garden, right? And I write about my garden. And during COVID, I sat with my garden. Freddie is smiling because I wrote about this. And that helped me to understand that what I do, and I'm hearing my father's voice, right? We from Maruga. I'm from St. Mary's Village in Maruga. I'm American, right? And every August vacation down to Maruga, we went. So even though we had moved uptown and my father and we doing things, and like you as I've been up Panvengil too, so I understand exactly what you're talking about. You're in a class of 36 girls and 3 or all you are children of color. And when I say that, who is East Indian and who mixed, right? Okay, that affects you in a particular way and your worldview. So this notion of ecology and community is important. And I want to say that there has always been tension in the Trinidad Carnival, whether it be the European and the African and so on. And we have sat back, and what people are talking about, they thief back the carnival or they take it from us or what. We have allowed it. Responsibility. We have allowed it, okay? So it is not that they thief it or whatever, because what I started off saying, where you place value is where action happens. And as a policymaker and academic, I saw the trajectory. We saw it happen when we started to talk about carnival as industry, when we started to talk about carnival as economy, right? When we started to talk about how much money carnival, so the only narrative now, when you read about carnival, same thing with Notting Hill, same thing with Caribbean. So we're not alone. Wherever there are these Caribbean carnivals, it's the same thing, right? It is about money. So, yes, right? So therefore, if we put value on the financial and not the symbolic or representational or political or community or ecology, because if you allow one band to own 10 bands, then there's a ripple effect in the ecology, right? If you fund particular things and defund particular things, then there's a ripple effect. I tell my students, policy is what you do, but policy is also what you choose not to do. That is policy too, right? So that we have to understand that we are all connected, right? And what you do affects what happens to me. And if I sit back, we have to claim back power. As we know, there's no power vacuum. Okay? If you sit back and say, well, all right, well, somebody's not going to let that power go anywhere, they're going to take it. They're going to claim it. Yes? So we have to reclaim. So in addition to repair, we have to reclaim. And in that reclamation, we've got to understand that we are all connected. We belong to an ecology, and there are certain behaviors in an ecology that you want to delimit. So in my garden, when the slugs, what's them thing that is crawl up underneath, mealybug and thing, right? I took corrective action, because if I let those things run rampant in my garden that I spent years planning, pruning, all in COVID, I live alone. That's how I spend my time, right? If I went by the neighbor and say, hey now, them thing yadi, right? So I realized my entire street was an ecology. And if I didn't go by my neighbors and say, what are you doing about that? Because it's thing in my rose and them, I ramping with my rose and thing, right? It's going to affect my rose. So here's, I buy and slug for the whole street.
Yes. Yeah.
Like here, take that, right? Because I'm not ramping with my rose and thing. If we don't realize that, then we're in trouble. If we buy in to the notion that only individual choice matters, right? And it doesn't matter how the collective is affected, then we're in some serious trouble. If we buy in to the valuation of finance over symbolism, representation, the representation of who we are, then we're in trouble. So all of these things have to be undergirded by a philosophy. What we for, right? As Earl said, what have we done with what we've done? What are we about? What are we about? What is the philosophy of Carnival? We have to fight for that. Man dead for that. Man dead for that. Right? So we've got to understand, it can't just be this neoliberal thing. Well, no. Right? But that, because like Freddie, we teach university students. You think you have it bad in secondary school? I had a student just write to me, oh, they police the Carnival because they determine when it is. I say, Cassidy, what do you mean? Who they? I say, it's like a 40-day, we are pre-Lenten Carnival. This is a postgraduate student writing on Carnival and doesn't understand how our Carnival days are selected. That's where we is. So when we sit in a classroom and we need that, it's lie down. When I go home, it's a lie horizontal, watch the ceiling and say, well, what is going on?
We really reach where we go.
We are arrivé. Okay? And that is the hard facts. And every time we make a choice and we don't think about the collective, we end up with where we are. This is 30 years of people sitting back and saying, well, right? That is what. And those of us who...
That's because you're not making money. That's what we would...
Correct. But people like us spitting in the wind because we've been saying it for years. This is what happens. Here we are in 2026, reaping the benefits of 50 years of neglect.
Thank you, Susan. Nicole?
Well, if I were to bring it back to a flair for freedom, I still do believe, Richard, I will end where I started, that freedom is extraordinarily expensive. And it always comes at a cost.
It does.
And it is also oxygen. So the question is, how do you create the balance between this expensive commodity and needing it to breathe, needing it to live? Where do you find the balance? How do you find that balance every single day between needing to be free and having to pay for it in one way or the next? And you mentioned something very poignant, and I'm also wondering about the intentionality of moving, having policy frameworks around the commodification of Carnival. Because when you do that and you strip it of the soul and the spirit and all that, you tend to never think of it as a living organism, and it's just a commodity. It's just a commodity.
You take the liberty from it.
Yeah, it's just a
item called Jambi.
Yeah, correct.
The liberty of the thing is stripped.
Yeah, so that also speaks to the power of intentionality and being intentional everything you do. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Shari.
I would just like to start off by saying thank you to everybody on the panel. Thank you, Richard, for having me. But thank you for putting me in a room with all of these amazing women. I specifically want to say thank you to, I believe that you and I may be the youngest on the panel. It's a different space for me to be in because I am usually removed from these conversations, so I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for you all just being able to open doors for us and keep the doors open, and my only desire for myself is to be able to do that for everybody else coming after me. And that's the only thing that I would leave with all of us. I think it's important for us to make these steps in the right direction, do our best to repair what we can, improve on it, and just keep the doors open.
Thank you, Shari. Kiba.
Oh boy, all right. Okay, so you asked us to just talk about ourselves and like kind of. So I have spent, much to the annoyance of my mother, the last 21 years of my career in the public sector. And I've chosen to do that because I've found that that is a place and space where I can make a difference. Right? Now I'm very, very mindful, always mindful that I am a little black girl. I'm a little black girl in this world, and so according to society, and Sister Zakia spoke about it, there's very little that I could do, and people don't listen. So we've been in meetings, Dara, we've been in meetings where I say something, and then somebody else say the same thing I just say. I just say that. Right? But anyways, so I've chosen to stay there because I understand that even though I am a little black girl, and it's easy to not be heard and to not be seen, I don't need all the big things to make changes. It's a lovely space for me to exist, to just implement little things. I like stick fighting. I'm going to add more stick fighting to the calendar. And the thing is, they ain't paying attention to that. They ain't paying attention to stick fighting. So I could add 3 more stick fighting events, and then throw in one in Point Fortin, and then stick fighting in the paddock on the 20th of June, people come out. So, and I could do that, and that can have, as Dr. Burke said, an impact on the stick fighters and the experience that they have. And then taking stick fighting to Tunapuna and using our mic man. By the way, best advertising to all of you who like TikTok and the gram and all kind of thing. Pay a man $1,200 between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock at the night to drive around in a community and announce the thing that you want to talk about. Everybody
grassroots communication.
Thank you, guerrilla marketing, you know. So and so I continue to do this because I believe that my contribution, Nicole's contribution, Shari's contribution, that our individual contributions, that they will make a difference. And then we have wonderful people like Richard and wonderful people like Sister Zakia who pull us together to have the conversation, so that as a little black girl in the world, I dreaming about doing something, and then I have an army of people in my circle who I could call on and say, hey, I want to do this thing. You know, and I could encourage people like Richard to say, why are you doing 1 night? 2, 3. Because the conversation is a very large one that we need to have, you know, and we need to take up more space. Why are we doing 1? We have to do more and have more conversations. So I feel today, I mean, not every day, and it'll be whole day, but today in this moment, I feel very grateful for the conversation that we've had today. I feel grateful that people turned up. You know, people are here and they want to talk about it. They have something to say. They feel something, and that's a start. You know, so I feel grateful, and I'm happy to see this type of thing happening. So thank you very much, Richard. Thank you very much, Sakia.
Yeah, they have a lot of hands that want to go up and see something. Yeah, okay, because I need to close after before they put out the lights. Okay, yes, definitely. Yes? Do you have a mic?
No, she doesn't.
I have been listening throughout and I found it so insightful. But I didn't wonder about perspective.
I'm still young enough, and I think it was really interesting to hear what you had to say about young people. And you're talking about people who are 10, you're talking about people who are 15. I am close to 30, and I think that it starts way later than we think. There are people my age, people in my age range, 35, close to 40. I talk to them, I say, I'll go in Camberley. What's Camberley? They're 35. So going back to what Dr. Burke, I thought it's very important when she said, what you value is what will receive money and attention. And when we have a little bit of a paradigm shift and we start to understand that, we can, not to fill this lady here, but I think we can understand what she was trying to say. Because when I first heard it, although I know this lady, I was like, what do you mean? There must be a problem with seeing black people holding the ropes. But it's not just about black people holding the ropes. I come from a family where carnival was money. People didn't go to play mass for carnival. They went to put up a bar. They went to put up, and carnival made money for the year. And my family looked like me, right? And so what we don't talk about is the money aspect of carnival. And that, yes, money, the pursuit of money, late stage capitalism is partially why we're here with carnival. But carnival used to make money for us as well. And we've lost that because of the inclusive banks. And I think that when we change the way we view carnival, and we see that holding a rope for carnival and having a choice to hold the rope for carnival, we talk about whether there's a choice or not in 2026, but having a choice to hold the rope for carnival is part of our culture too. The making of carnival was us too. And that's putting up the tents, putting up the bar, putting up the whatever. Right? So when I think of what we value, and when we realize that if you value pretty mass as what carnival is, you will see that carnival is dying. But I haven't played mass in 3 years for reasons, lots of different reasons. One is I don't feel connected to what playing mass is anymore. But the past 3 years I've participated in carnival still. I go to Camberley, I've gone to Camberley, I go to stick fighting. These things are still happening. The carnival is still happening. I think it's wrong to to say it that we have lost what carnival is. What we may have lost is the interest in the grassroots of what carnival is. And I think it starts with the youth, which is why I started with that. Young people, younger generations, didn't grow up with an appreciation for carnival that I see everybody on this panel have. I grew up with an appreciation for carnival, and it was a deliberate choice that I would grow up with an appreciation for carnival. It didn't matter what they were teaching me in school. Come to Emancipation Village and meet Auntie Zakia when you're young, when I was very, very young. Now I go to Emancipation Village with my mother alone. My friend's not going that. It have this to go, it have that to go. If Flavor was only showing Old Mass and Pan, it wouldn't have sell out the way it was. Because Pan is free. And the pan yards is be empty. There are so many free things to participate in for carnival, or cheaper things. You could still go on your road, but if that's not what you value and see as carnival, then you won't participate in that way, and you'll say carnival is dying. We need to have a paradigm shift so people can understand. And I think it starts in the school, but it starts in the home. Because I am part of the generation that doesn't know what carnival is. But I know what it is because I had no choice but to know what it was. And so when we were all talking about when I was young, it's not the same thing. And so we have to be deliberate about exposing people to it. I asked a 19-year-old if they knew High Mass by David Rudd, and they didn't know it. I think that's a song every Trinidadian and Trinbagonian is supposed to know. They didn't know this song. I played for them. I played Bahia Girl. They don't know David. They don't know these things. And that's concerning to me. But we will continue to have an idea that carnival doesn't exist and is dying, and it will continue to die, and there will be no spectators because people don't know the carnival that we are talking about. They know Marshall. I love Marshall. They know Marshall. They know Cass. They know Pretty Mass. And there's nothing wrong with those elements, but if they don't know the other elements of it and the richness of those other elements, we'll continue to have the same experience that we're having now.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know if the conversation, I came in late. Right?
You might got to bear him out,
I don't know if the conversation purposefully went into carnival, right? But I think one of the biggest, how I would say, a disrespect towards black or African people, right, is the fact that every single year, even on Emancipation Day, we are bombarded with a set of Eurocentric prints passing off as African prints to us. Those are not African concepts. And I tell people there are two countries responsible for this. There's a company called Velisco. They run the biggest mills in Africa.
That's right. The Dutch.
They're Dutch. And the Chinese. They have taken over the whole African market. So what we consider as African prints, and we sporting it and we posing and we reveling in it, those are not African concepts. And why we continuing to, you understand? When you look at true African prints, you would realize this is not it. And every single year, and we do nothing about it. We pay our money, we make the clothes. You understand? So I am hearing somebody saying that we are holding the rope, but we've been holding the rope a long time now, just in different forums, different concepts. We've been holding the ropes a long time. Right? And when you take it back to the theme of the whole thing, a flair for freedom, with respect to things like fabrics, what real choices we have. These merchants are making millions of dollars off of us. I've heard one of these merchants say they have to make for the least $75,000 a day just to stay in business. And they're making more than that. So even with respect to carnival, it's all about the money to them. They don't really care about how we feel and how we look at things.
Thank you. Well, I have to close because I know...
you have one person. Yes, please.
Okay, after that we have to close.
Yes.
So as a
Yes,
youth,
go
I
ahead.
was just 19 5 days ago, and I have to say that my friends and I, we want to play carnival next year, right? But our decision to play carnival have nothing to do with the culture, honestly. It's just that the costumes look nice, you look good in the costume, I go down across the stage. The music nice, that's what we know. We really don't know the culture. It have no relevance to what's going on right now any day. And then too, with being African, I study renewable energy. I am one of 3 black people in my class, and it's like a competition. It's like, if you win in, then I can win. So we're not helping each other, we're putting each other down, because if I want to win, I have to sabotage you. So now we don't have enough black people at the top to help each other. And in spaces where it really matters, where it have control or authority, it's not black people there, it have 1 or 2, because, and it's like, I watching out for you, I seen you doing good things, but I don't really want you to come and take my spot. That's how it is in class. And my school, we went on a field trip to Jamaica, and any school pictures, they literally edited us to be lighter in complexion to match the rest of the class as dark-skinned people. And for the consideration, I went to Flavor Village, and I could say that I didn't go there to see traditional mass. And that song from David Rod, I really don't know that song. I really don't know it. So I go and watch Steel Pan. My family is not really carnival. My granny used to take me to play mass, but now if I was to go and ask my friends, let's go and watch mass, guys, they'd be like, why I gonna watch that? Like, I not playing, that have nothing to do with me, because now if you watching mass, it's just given you didn't have enough money to play in band. That's why you outside there watching mass. Juve, you wanna go and play a Juve, don't have money for that. I don't have money for that. And my mom not jumping out $2,000 for me to go and play Juve. No way.
Can you imagine?
That's
never played for Juve in my life.
That's all from me.
Okay, thank you so much. So, what I'm going to close with is that we are closing with the lines out of the mouth of a babe. And she spoke the truest truth here. And the understanding of our interdependence and our interconnectivity, and knowing that we're part of our ecosystem, is the beginning of the pursuit for freedom and a sense of awareness and identity. Thank you for being here. It was quite stimulating. I think even more stimulating than I thought I was expecting it to be. I love my panelists, and I love you, the audience. Thanks for coming. Day 2 comes tomorrow. The speakers on to Day 2 tomorrow is Wendell Manwaran, Rubadiri Victor, Abeo Jackson, Giselle Carr, Dr. Kevin Adonis Brown, and I think I'm missing one person. That's it tomorrow. So see you if you want to come back. Zakia is on the panel tomorrow again. Thank you.
You're going.
Thank you for coming. Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah. It might be wonderful. But we have each other's number, so we're going to continue talking. Thanks for coming. Yes, okay.